Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. We are locked and closed like always for the last 2 years, but you can still contact me if you want to call. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality, what's going on in the world. The world's kind of crazy right now. A lot of weird prophetic utterances going on that don't seem to make sense in my world. We try not to be disparate with what actually is going on. We're Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. Welcome. Queen Elizabeth just died. Um, Her death seems to be prophetic. Some people are saying it's really prophetic, like her son is the Antichrist. And I'm saying, no, I don't think so. So let's cover it today. She lived 70 years, which is an interesting biblical time. So that sounds a lot like Psalm 90. And so 1926, my mom was born that year. Interesting. And Queen Elizabeth died on Erev Yom Kippur, so that is that full moon of Elul, which is the month just before Tishri, which is that month when the king is in the field. Now, my opinion differs from most eschatologists in reference to Revelation 17 about the 10 horns. I don't think there are 10 European kings, so I don't think Queen Elizabeth dying and now King Charles III is not one of those 10 horns. I don't think that's how it works. I think they're 10 big tech titans, and I'll try to explain that as we move through. And I don't think he's the Antichrist, so we'll cover all of that. So once again, there's that waxing gibbous 99% illuminated moon, and that was on Friday night. And the moon was gorgeous and kind of orangish too, so it was very beautiful. And so those are the months there. Tishri is the religious month, and just keep in mind that there's Nisan. That is the really start of the calendar. But there are well, there are four calendars, but there are two that I really notice a lot. So we should be aware of the collapse of European monarchies, but really we should be more aware of what's going on with Big Ten. Big Tech, rather. Big Ten. Okay, so King Charles III will rule, and he's the climate king. So he's the climate king of Great Britain, and so sadly the Queen has passed. Charles has been made king. Camilla will be the Queen. Charles now has become the head of the Church of England with a Roman Catholic wife. Now, I love Roman Catholics, but I'm not so happy with the leaders, the Pope and other leaders, we'll just call them, okay? And in this case, that means that all the reformers who died horrible deaths as martyrs to bring the gospel to the common man in their own language are probably crying in heaven today. So Amanda, a friend of mine, published that. Now, I agree with her. I totally agree. So according to another source, and I'm blanking on her name right now, she said Charles can only rule until age 80, which is only 7 years. So Charles just recently invoked, I pray for the guidance and help of the Almighty God as he proclaimed that he is now king. I don't think so, because we'll see some of his friends, and I kind of doubt it. I think that's just his verbiage. So I have a friend. I mean, I don't know him, but I like him. Like I could be friendly with him. He's a Torah teacher named Monte Judah, and he's Lion and Lamb Ministries. And join Monte this week on Friday. The change of the throne in the United Kingdom and how it directly relates to the possibility of the Antichrist rising in power and fulfilling prophecy. Now, keep in mind that Monte back in 1993 said the peace accord in 1993 started the Great Tribulation, and that was told to him by God. So Monty can be really, really right and really, really wrong. He's a good guy. And then off to the left-hand side, it'll show you the prince who is to come. And this is done by Tim McHyde, talking about what Monty Judah has to say and the coat of arms. And then there's also something there from Tim Hegg's son, Caleb Hegg, about how Monty has prophesied before and been really, really wrong. He preaches to his followers that Prince Charles, the powerless big-eared dork, is the leading candidate for the Antichrist. Well, he's wrong. And we'll discuss it. But you can hit this article if you want to. It's called Escape All These Things and see what Monty has to say. Or you can watch his videos. He is a nice guy. He has that video on YouTube, although he can't always say what he wants to say. So that's the real contention today. Although it's going to come down to the 70 years. It's very interesting. Germany is important. England. The seat of Satan, Marxism, depressions, war, beasts. I mean, it's all these prophecies. Lions, of course, there they are in the middle there. And so what we do is try to explain prophecy in light of the Bible, in light of the news. Yes, I do newspaper exegesis. Get used to it. Okay, so the first most important thing is I trust this guy, David Wilkerson. And so keep in mind that he prophesied in 1973 in this The Vision prophecy. And that happens to be 50 years ago when we hit 2023. But he did say that there would be a worldwide economic recession and Germany would lead it out. Now, if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have laughed at this prophecy. I would have said maybe Europe would fall, but not Germany. They're the most powerful nation there. And now they seem to be falling. Then it would spread to Japan, then the United States. Corporations are going to go bankrupt. We would have nature having labor pains, supernatural signs, worldwide natural disasters, major earthquakes, worldwide famine, especially in China. Well, we're having one in China right now. There's no water in southern China. India, Russia, and the world's food supplies would dwindle. People would starve. Flood of pornographic filth. Oh, yeah, we've got that. Rebellion in the homes. We've got that. Persecution madness. Yep, we've got that coming. So the main thing is Wilkerson is right. So Germany is falling, and there's a German connection to Queen Elizabeth. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. First, we're going to discuss how the UK Lion is doing now. Well, they are moving towards the depression. So 6 in 10 British factories can't run their businesses because the oil costs, their gas costs, their other energy costs are so high. They're just going to close down, and they may not open up again. So they're going to destroy their economy to fight Putin in some strange way that they aren't really fighting Putin at all. I mean, they're helping him actually. Soaring energy bills are threatening to put 6 out of 10 British manufacturers out of business. They've experienced a jump in electricity bills of more than 100% in the last year. They're not competitive. So close down the shop rather than losing more money. Cut production or shut up the shop altogether. And they're shutting up. Okay, that's the line there. And then German gas plant giant pleads for state funding amid energy crisis. So you've got trillions in liquidity support is going to be needed as Swiss and Finns join Europe's bailout brigade. So really, Europe's tiny steps won't solve its energy emergency. And this is created by stupid politicians. Okay, so that's Russia TV that's talking about those things. But Germany and the EU are linked together. And if Germany falls, the EU will fall and England will fall. And so this is just capital that is dead and tied up in margin calls, Hugain said in an interview with Gastech in the conference in Milan recently here. If the companies need to put up that much money, that means liquidity in the market dries up, and it's not good for this part of the gas market. So liquidity will dry up, and Europe will have serious problems this winter. There will be cold people. And who's forcing this? Well, it's Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. And so Bloomberg is saying the latest threat to UK's economy is its crumbling currency. So Capital Economics sees pound falling as low as $1.05. Wow. Higher prices for imports mean more pain for the economy. This is Disclosed TV is saying Europe is facing an unprecedented rise in civil unrest due to rising inflation and energy costs. And it's all caused by the politicians. And so what I'm saying is that I'm likening Karl Marx to Klaus Schwab, and he's saying things like, let them eat cake made out of crickets. Yeah, there you go. But these politicians are cowardly lions, and they're causing all the problems right now. They're trying to defeat Russia, and they can't. They don't have the strength, the courage to fight. They're cowardly lions. So let's get back to the Queen. Lions, 70 years, German. Her ancestry is German. Depressions, wars, all these things. Now, in the middle, upper middle here, you'll see a beast from the UN that seems to be similar to what you see in Revelation 13. But on the coat, on the left-hand side here, you see the lion. And so that is the symbol of Great Britain. The lion with the flag there, the lion, and different pictures. Now, I want you to understand these are called heraldic beasts, okay? Or heraldic probably is more like it. And so there are different beasts and different pictures of them, and they're dragons and they're tigers and there's leopards and yeah, here you go, and hippocampus, whatever that is, unicorns and sea lion, oh boy, and the griffin and all these other things. Okay, so bottom line is there are many, many symbols. Are they exactly the Revelation 13 symbol? Not so much. And we'll cover that in a little bit. But I want you to at least see the lion in conjunction with the queen and now the king. So Monte Judah says this heraldic beasts are the symbol, and so he's really linking that to Charles, and we'll see that in a minute. But first, let's read Revelation 13, part of it. And I saw the beast come up out of the sea, out of the peoples. We learned that later on in 1715, with 1715, with 10 horns and 7 heads, and its horns were 10 royal crowns, and on its heads blasphemous names. The beast which I saw was like a leopard. That's a Germanic reference, okay, the leopard. But its feet were like those of a bear. That's Russia. And a mouth like a mouth of a lion. That's Great Britain. And to it, the dragon, gave its power, which is Satan, and its throne and great authority. And one of the heads of the beast appeared to have received a fatal wound, but its fatal wound was healed, and the whole earth followed after the beast in amazement. So that's Revelation 13, 1 through 3. Is that a sign that Great Britain is going to birth the beast, which is King Charles? No. But, he is still the king, and he's the climate king. And the Greenpeace co-founder, Patrick Moore, says climate change based on false narratives. So it isn't working out very well because they aren't really scientists anymore. They're politicians, and they are pushing climate goals just because they're politicians and they don't care what happens to people. So German diplomat who mocked Trump at UN suddenly is silent as president's Russian energy warning comes true. So Trump sat there and just grilled the Germans over their stupid energy policy, and he was right. And he was right. Now, the other thing is I want to show you this. So Charles is the king now after decades of climate change advocacy, but his other advocacy is guys like on the lower right-hand side, Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile is dead now, but he's one of the biggest perverts you'll ever meet in your life. He's a horrible, horrible man. And Charles was buddy-buddy with him, and his brother was buddy-buddy with Epstein. So once again, Elizabeth is dead. Charles will be called, who called for trillions to be at the disposal of the Antichrist, will be England's first king in a generation. So this is Jeffrey Grider. I totally agree with Jeffrey on just about everything that he says. So he runs, what's the name of his news service? He's always on Rapture Ready, and he's a big Rapture date setter. So anyway, he's not that guy. He's not the Antichrist, but he's going to push hard for that because it sells some print, so to speak. The energy transition could be derailed by looming copper shortage. Yeah, so once again, his energy policy is not working out. If you don't have copper, you can't build your electric society. Okay. So let's run through a few more comments, and keep in mind there might be a 7-year rule that Charles can only rule until age 80, and then his son would take over. So I am telling you the situation in Europe is much worse than many understand. We are essentially on the brink of another banking crisis, a collapse in our industrial base, our households, thus on the brink of collapse of our economies. So that's Tuomas Malanen, okay? And here's another one. In any case, the speed of deterioration is massive now. It's only a matter of time when markets catch up. I am betting that we only have weeks really to go until it truly begins. And so his points that he said, you need to take precautionary measures now. Stock up on cash and food and water and wood and other necessities. And so basically, he's saying it's dire over in Europe. It's not dire in the U.S. I'm saying based on Wilkerson, you've got another year to go. But you should still be stocking up, on certain things, okay? We are also totally at the mercy of the authorities. We have very little knowledge of what they have planned. Will they be able to stop the onset of the banking crisis yet again? I don't know, but I'm doubtful. So the Great Reset is coming, and it's not going to be good for us people, okay? So now, Monte Judah is running around, and Jeffrey Grider basically too, saying it looks like King Charles III is the beast of Revelation 13 as we read, and so he's not, guys, okay? But the biblical descriptions as we read in Revelation 13, and the beast was like a leopard, feet like the bears, and the mouth was like a lion. So they're saying, well, that means that it's Prince Charles, and he came into power right now, great authority right now, and his throne. And then there's this little horn from Daniel 7:8, a little one, which the 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots, and behold, this horn were the eyes of a man, and the mouth speaking great things. Okay, that's not Charles. Okay, now the coat works, and so you're going to see all of this stuff, where the lion, yeah, it's a symbol of Great Britain, and you can see the mouth of a lion on the coat there, the 10 lions in the picture, and the body of a leopard, kinda, and the feet of a bear, kinda. And so you can say he was born in 1948, the same year that Israel became a nation. So what? Okay. The beast, Prince Charles, coat of arms and crest were designed for him by the British College of Heraldry using the system of guidelines for over 500 that are 500 years old. It all contains the biblical symbols of the Antichrist. Once again, and this number is okay, so basically 666, because if you look at Hebrew gematria and also English, you're going to see that Prince Charles of Wales adds up to 666 in English and Hebrew. That's stupid. And once again, there's another picture of Elizabeth with Gaga. Yeah, right. Godly, not. And then the new king with Jimmy Savile. Jimmy was a wretched man, and I'm not a fan of Gaga either. She's a Luciferian. Okay, so here's the Escape all these things article, the prince who is to come, and so this is from Monte, Judah, but the other guy, McHyde, published it. Yeah, he was born in 1948. Who cares? Okay, and there's other things like the Gematria, and I don't know if they know how to spell Wales properly in Hebrew or in English for that matter. Uh, so poor Monte. I mean, he's wrong, but that's life. And then I wanted to show on the right-hand side that Stan Johnson. So Monte predicted the end of the world starting in 1993. Stan predicted the end of the world starting in 1997. And so he's from the Prophecy Club. And I generally listen to Stan, although he's got some weird ideas. I love Romanian pastor Dimitri Duduman, which Stan brought out. So he's done some good things, okay? But so Stan, basically the latest time frame for the completion of the Book of Life would have to be September 1997. So these guys have been prophesying all sorts of stuff for years, and I'm just telling you that we're moving through the seals like birth pangs, and I'll describe that later on. Now I want to spend a minute because there are various queens, and I don't think Queen Elizabeth was a good person, okay? And I'll see if I can prove it or not. But there's Jezebel in the Bible. She was the daughter of a king of Phoenicia, really this area of Tyre, and she was the wife of Ahab, and they were as wicked as you get. And so God describes this, and also it looks like one of her children was Athaliah, which was a wicked queen. And then there's Isabella, who determined that she was going to birth the kings of Europe and take over Europe based on birthing, which was brilliant. But she was also wicked, and she killed Jews. You remember the phrase, "I didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition"? That's her. Okay, and so she kicked the Moors out, which are the Muslims, and the Jews out. And she also sent Columbus over, which she did a good thing. She found a new home for the Jews. So Isabella was an interesting woman. I'm saying in the Hebrew text, Jezebel or Izevel and Isabella are the same name. So just keep that in mind. It's not a good name to name your daughter. So Isabel is consecrated to Bel or Baal. Isabel is the Hebrew, there's Izevel, and it would read not exalted, not married in the language of Canaan. It's probably a disparaging form of the original Phoenician name. It was probably the Lord Baal is my dwelling or husband, something like Beelzebul, which is known. It's a female version of it, and so it comes from the Septuagint. It's Isabel or Jezebel, although the J sound wasn't there. Exalted Bel, possibly. And so my comment is the problem is who is Bel? The Bel is the wicked one, who likely is Dagon, Molech, Chemosh, or Hasatan. They're demonic enemies of God. Okay, so once again, we have 1493, 1494, and you have the Columbus sailing time. You have Isabel, and I mean, she found a new home for the Jews and for other people, and really blessed us with that. But she was a wicked lady. So we're going to be talking about dreams now. And we're going to be moving forward from that time frame to 1539, 1540, and so the Lion's Gate. And that's described here. The photo of the Lion's Gate is located near the Mount of Olives. It faces east. There's another gate nearby that we're going to be describing, and so it was funded to be repaired by Suleiman the Magnificent. And there was a lot of prophecy related to it. In his dreams, he saw lions that were about to devour him. And so he asked the only prophet that he knew, which was Allah, what this meant. And so that Allah supposedly answered him and said, you'll get blessings to live to X amount of years, but you'll have a 7-year blessing of rebuilding Mecca, Medina, and Jerusalem. And so over the 7-year time frame from 1536 to 1543, basically 1542, he repaired the Lion's Gate, and also he repaired the Eastern Gate so that only the king could come through. Okay, and that is Yeshua. So my friend Josh Elsom put this together years ago. So during that time of 1539, they were building the wall, plus 62 weeks is June 7th of 67. Yeah, that's the capture of Jerusalem. And so Jerusalem becomes the capital of Israel for the first time in 1900 years, plus 7 weeks is September 28th, 2015. So we figured something was going to happen about that time. Nothing happened, but Josh did some good research, and I'm really happy that they did that. So once again, on August 20th of 1539, Sultan Suleiman of Turkey, basically, was an Ottoman, had ordered the rebuilding of the east gate of Jerusalem, called the Lion's Gate. It was finished in 1540, and then you count the numbers, and it's very interesting, very prophetic, 173,880 days, and you land exactly on June 7th. So, and then it shows you all these various eclipses that occurred, and they did occur during that time. So now they were not blood moon eclipses; they were silent eclipses, although they're all silent. But they were not blood moon; they were just eclipses. But I want you to know that they occurred on Passover, on 1539, and then Sukkot 1539, and then Passover again in 1540, and then Sukkot again in 1540. So it does work. And so he did all the research for me, and there's that Eastern Gate that only the Messiah can come through. And here's the guy that discovered the bones and verified that this is the place. So that David Reagan and Nathan Jones are interviewing Jim Fleming, a doctor, PhD, and he saw the Eastern Gate. He saw that underneath there, he could see the old gate underneath the present-day gate that Suleiman built. So it's really, really cool. And so he proved that it was there back in 1967. Really cool stuff. And then here it is. This is part of the prophecy. Then he brought me back by way of the outer gate of the sanctuary, the one facing east that was shut. And that is the one that Messiah Yeshua will come through. Adonai said to me, this gate will remain shut. It will not be open. So Suleiman did that as part of this lion-type prophecy. And no one will go through it because Adonai, the God of Israel, has gone through it. Therefore, it will be kept shut. Only the Prince Yeshua, is to sit there and eat his meal before Adonai. He is to enter through the vestibule of the gate and leave the same way. He brought me through the north gate to the front of the house, and I looked and saw Adonai's glory fill in the house. So this is during the millennium, but this shows that he has to enter through that gate. So we know that. So now that's the lion aspect of this with Britain, and I get that, but it doesn't mean that Prince Charles or King Charles now is the Antichrist. And then I want to show you that the House of Windsor is German, not British. So as of 1840, these were German people, and they came over from the House of, oh goodness, I'm blanking on the names. Oh, here it is. Yep, of Saxe, Coburg, and Gotha. And so they came over from Germany to lead England, and then they brought some of their German ideas with them, and Germany started World War I, World War II, and I believe World War III will be started by them too. And so they were that family from Germany until 1917, right after World War I. They didn't want to be German anymore after that, so they changed everything out in 1917. Very interesting how that worked out. So that's when you get the Windsor name, and so that's also during the time of Karl Marx, and that's also during the time of, oh, I'm blanking on the other Karl, Human. And so I'm showing you the Saxe, Coburg, and Gotha house tree, whatever. Then the House of Windsor in 1917, and they changed their name in 1917 because they knew that there was anti-Germanic sentiment after World War I, and it was even worse after World War II. But they're German, okay? And that spirit of Marx and of Human, and I'll explain Human in a minute here, carries through into Britain because it was a European problem. Okay, so Karl Marx was born in 1818, and then he wrote his Communist Manifesto in 1848, and in 1864 he founded the first international whatever in London. He published Das Kapital in 1867, and so during these years you've got another man named Carl Human, and I can't prove that they knew each other, but they overlap. They definitely overlap. He was working on roads. He was an architect and working on roads in Turkey, and he found the altar of Zeus, the throne of Satan, which is from Revelation 2:13. Now, when he's working on this, during the same time Adolf Hitler is being born, you've got the altar of Zeus is completed in 1889 in Germany. So evil moves around. You've got evil with Marx, you've got evil with Human, and you've got evil with Hitler. They're all connected. And I'm saying that part of it is that it came over from Germany to England too. They brought some evil there too, because England has caused some wars too. Okay, so now we're moving on to the king aspect. 10 European kings or 10 European kings? I'm saying no. I'm saying from the prophecy that you'll see in Revelation that the old model is wrong. You're not going to have 10 European kings leading everything out and handing everything over to the Antichrist. It just doesn't work, people. They have no power. King Charles III is not going to hand over power to the Antichrist. He's a nobody. He's a coward. And so you'll find that it's handed over by big tech, and I'll try to prove that. So once again, I'm saying the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet, because they're big tech, but in 1 hour, literally 1 hour, they will hand everything over to the beast as big tech. Or it's these sleepy guys like King Charles and all these other kings down on the lower hand side here. No, it's not, okay? The Antichrist will not be working with those 10 kings. You have to look at the most important kings of the world, and that is Google, and that is, why am I blanking? Microsoft, and all of those companies, the big tech companies. And also, it's the DNS servers. So it's not geographic areas. It's not 10 kings. It's not religious leaders like the goofballs on the upper right-hand side here. There are prophecies out there. There's St. Malachi's, which they're stating too here, that Francis should be the false prophet. But we'll see. We'll see. He hasn't turned into it yet. And then we have to worry about who's riding the beast. What's Mystery Babylon? Who's riding this beast? And we have lots of women that want to ride the beast. You can see the pictures of Katy Perry there and others riding the beast, which is porn, I believe. So then let's look at what I think it is. So if we go back to the 1990s and we request a DNS domain name server address, you apply to 7 kings, and then 7 gods would approve your request. At present, there are 13 DNS centers across the world. It could be 12. I have friends that say it's right now 12. I'm thinking it's going to collapse down to 10 at some point in time. And according to the Bible, this calls for a mind with wisdom. I'm telling you that these root servers are the ones that control all the information of the world, and they can build the databases, and they can hand it over to the Antichrist very, very quickly. And you can't get that done through 10 goofy kings that happen to be in Europe. So stop thinking about the term king and start thinking about who's the power brokers of the world. So once again, we have these 13 locations, and I think it's going to collapse down to 10. Okay, so now this is Revelation 17, so you can see it in context. And the beast, and I'm saying the word Therion, which is interesting. That's a living creature, which once was and now is not, is an 8th king, and it comes from the 7 and is on its way to destruction. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings. I'm saying they're 10 big tech kings who have not yet begun to rule, but they receive power as kings for 1 hour. And that would be hora in the Greek, and that should be an hour, okay? And it could be moedim, I don't know, but either way, it's going to be real quick, and that's why it has to be big tech, speed, along with the beast, okay? They have one mind, that's gnome, so it's not the standard word for mind. This gnome should be computer programming, okay? And they hand over the power and authority to the beast. So beast is listed, that Therion word, all over the place in Revelation 17. So it's a mystery, but I think we're starting to solve it. So once again, that's what I think it is. I think the 13 are going to become 10. Okay, so where are we on time frames? We're in the birth pangs. We seem to be going from the 3rd seal to the 4th seal. The tribulation has not begun. King Charles is not the Antichrist, and we are not in great tribulation. But we seem to be moving along in the birth pangs. And what time is it in terms of, we're 2 years now since Israel, the UAE, signed the Abraham Accords, and what's been achieved? Well, really a lot, and so money-wise, they're doing just fine. And so it's a state of peace. Now, it's a slow process, but there's more peace as a result of it. So they're saying violence is decreasing, albeit slowly. Okay, so what time is it also? I'm saying the fall of Western civilization, which is the first horseman. I'm saying you can just read it. I'm not even going to read it to you. Child grooming, Satanism, transhumanism, anti-population or anti-human depopulation, censorship from the big tech. Notice the big tech listed there, YouTube, Twitter, all those guys. Mass poisoning of humanity through toxic food. This is all from Mike Adams. So you can read it yourself. You can pause if you want to. So pay attention when people react in anger and hostility to your boundaries. You have found their edge where their respect for you ends. So be aware of what's happening as these big tech companies do not respect you at all. Okay, what else? First seal, first horseman, the fall of Western civilization. What's going on? Well, really, the death of the queen marks the death of Western civilization in some ways. It does. So Western Europe likely won't be far behind falling. I mean, they're starting to fall, and I gave you some more information on that. And so I think Mike is right with this. No civilization can survive without food, energy, money, and the leaders of Western Europe are hell-bent on utterly destroying all three. We're looking at a systematic, unrelenting wipeout of the euro, the yen, and even the dollar, combined with global de-dollarization. So it's not going to go well. Okay, prepare for the era of collapse. And once again, a little bit more about this. Western Europe is facing a total collapse. European banks are facing the possibility of systematic failures. Western Europe governments are printing money to try to address the devastating energy scarcity that's now that it's irreversible. Okay, failure of Western European banks, governments, and currencies will spread like a contagion to the United States, like Wilkerson said about a year from now. Okay, and then Western Europe is doomed to a simultaneous collapse of food, energy, industry, agriculture, and currency. Putin, it seems, will persevere and do quite well. He doesn't need to go to war. The NATO countries are destroying themselves with astonishing speed. That is what I believe is the first seal, because it is about the West. You have to look at Zechariah 6 to see that. So this is from Charles Nenner, brilliant man. And so he's saying there's no way out right now. The anti-dollar is coming. So he predicted in May a third of the global population will be killed in the next war cycle. So whenever that occurs, and we seem to be pushing towards it. Turkey is attacking Greece right now. We're going to continue on that pace of war, and it's going to explode the second half of 2023. I agree with him. So people don't trust what is going on in the U.S. We saw this happen to the British. The dollar is not going to crash yet, but it will. They've been saying, the dollar won't crash, but we seem to be in 2023, the time where it could crash. BRICS countries and China are preparing to have an anti-dollar policy. The dollar is going to collapse. He thinks that it might not completely crash in his lifetime, but there isn't going to be much left to it. Once you start forgiving the student loans, it compounds other problems. It can destroy the economy. Students that make 4 to 5 times more than other people earn, and it's being paid for by the simple people, they'll revolt. Okay. So the big crash is inevitable. Soon pensions are going to be in trouble. The pension programs will go bankrupt. We have to crash. We have to have a depression. The whole economy will have to start over again. That's Nenner. I agree with him. So you work on your garments. Keep them clean. That means repentance. We're in the Elul. We're coming up on Rosh Hashanah. I'm going to be celebrating it on the 28th because that's when the new moon will occur. That's what the Bible tells us to do. So be blessed. And remember to thank God for where we are right now. You have food and clothing. So be blessed. Bye-bye.